About the book. This introduction is based on the writing of mostly English Kabbalists of the 17th to 19th century, especially those who have been members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn before dissolution. We begin our narration with a summary of the basic element in the book, which is on the limitless light on divine wisdom and understanding, sometimes addressed as the Ein Sof. It is also not wrong to describe the supreme intelligence as the creator of the universe. It is interesting to note that the book of Genesis of the Bible uses the words in the beginning to show that there was a beginning which scientists gave as what occurred 13.8 billion years ago, details of which will be discussed in the book. On the introductory page, our concern is to touch on the main point taken from the book of Genesis, which also meaning beginning. From this very beginning, it is remarkable that polarity dominates almost every aspect of creation. For example, we have heaven and earth, light and darkness, day and night, and eventually man and woman, etc. Also, the creator uses we to indicate that the decision to create was not done by a single being. The reason for this polarity as a law will be discussed fully in the book. We may wonder why humanity, though the dominant interest of the creator even after other living things. Most readers may not be able to guess the reason, which we will proffer in the relevant chapter of the book. The Garden of Eden was intended to provide food for his dominant creation, provides us with a lot of food for thought. Even in the context of humanity today, there is something extremely important to consider in Genesis as it affects health and longevity being pursued with determination and vigor today, as you will see in the book. Of greatest importance and interest is the description by Elohim of humans as his image and likeness. In most of the books, if not all, on the Holy Kabbalah, there does not seem to be an effort to enlighten the reader about what his or likeness, since God himself appears to be unwilling to describe himself in the early part of the Bible. We shall relate this with other relevant parts of the book to come out with a clearer definition of the natures of Elohim and humanity. We see that the biological structures of humans are similar to those of other living creatures despite the placement of man as the head and also the image of his creator. The conversation between the creator and the created as regards the prohibition given to Adam, and even about the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil lives, us in doubt about the nature of the supreme intelligence, especially the introduction of death, following disobedient of gods, other to avoid eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Can this mean that humans would have lived forever as long as they remain obedient to the law or order? Why man easily fall ill and die today is easily understood in the context of the Bible, but why man continues to defy the law that makes him continue to see and tolerate evil with all the suffering that goes with it is perhaps the simplest theological augment. But there are other mysteries attached to the argument to be discussed, which will be a delight to the living public. Going back to the story about the creation of man and woman, it is significant to note that this was not made fiat as assumed in the creation of other living creatures, but by molding the body with clay from the soil in the shape we know, and finally breathed into his nostrils what we know as the breath of life to make the human a living soul. All the postulation that bring out the reason for this special attention to humans will be considered in the book at the appropriate place. The tree of life and of knowledge of good and evil, which is the foremost aspect of the Kabbalah, will be discussed in several chapters, and since most of this knowledge is available to the serious searchers of truth, I cannot go into much discussion about this aspect of Kabbalah, but will touch on areas requiring in-depth discussion to help the reader feel what myth be missing gap of their knowledge as practical Kabbalist. Perhaps what is of utmost interest to me is health and longevity, which encompasses all that is absolutely necessary for success in scientific spirituality, failure, neglect, or unwillingness, or carelessness in given enough time, if at all, in this essential aspect of what we must do in the process has been responsible for lack of progress in maintaining the integrity of the system. Being a psychic, a healer, or a master of scientific spirituality cannot guarantee radiant health all the time because the glance which secret hormones for efficient reception was discharged spiritual properties most be adequately nourished for pick efficiency. Some of them are receptors of spiritual impulses of vibrations, which need a lot of energy for either reception or discharge of spiritual powers. All this will be discussed fully in the book.